Cleopatra. This queen of ancient Egypt was of Greek descent. Cleopatra was related to the ancient noble Greek family of Ptolemies, and was the great-great-nephew of Ptolemaic I, who equaled the death of Alexander the Great, became ruler of Egypt. Cleopatra VII reigned as the last queen of the Egyptian Ptolemaic Empire, and at the same time as the last female pharaoh, from the years 51 to 30 BC. In the first 4 years, she ruled together at first with her brother, Ptolemy XIII. In 47 BC her brother died at age of 14, later with other males co-regents, since legal regulations provided for a double occupation of the throne, under the guarantee of Rome. She wanted to consolidate and expand her empire, but was unable to achieve this goal, against the world power Rome. Therefore she won the two most powerful Romans of her time, first Gaius Iulius Caesar, and after his assassination, Marcus Antonius. With his help, she was able to hold the power of the Ptolemaic Empire for some time, and improve significantly. What was the position of Egypt, and the later province of Aegyptus, in the Roman Empire? Antony's defeat by the future Emperor Augustus spelled the end of their reign. Cleopatra and Antony committed suicide, and Egypt became the Roman province of Aegyptus. And the second question that needs to be clarified: why did Egypt ultimately oppose the Roman Empire? The drama of Antony and Cleopatra, the Egyptian queen's relationship with Gaius Iulius Caesar, and the mysterious circumstances of her death, have captured the imagination of people since ancient times, and inspired many important writers, composers and painters. In this video, I tell you the story about the last pharaoh of Egypt. Here we go. In childhood, Cleopatra was taught only by the best Greek and Egyptian teachers, which existed at that time. In the year 51 BC, the father of Cleopatra, Ptolemy XII, died. Still according to the old tradition, which came from the time of the pharaohs, Cleopatra had to get the line of the Ptolemaians, to get a political form, an alliance with your brother, namely Ptolemy XIII. Ptolemy XIII was only 10 years old at the time. However, after 4 years of joint throne occupation of Egypt, her brother realized slowly that he is in all respects in the shadow of Cleopatra. His word had practically no weight in political decisions. Since he was not of legal age, he was patronized by advisors at the royal court. This insight of Ptolemy XIII generated anger and envy towards his sister Cleopatra. In order to consolidate his power, the 14-year-old pharaoh decides on an armed uprising against his sister. Luckily for him, Ptolemy XIII had most of the Egyptian military by his side. Unable to win this civil war, Cleopatra fled to neighboring Syria. In a relatively short time, Cleopatra was able to recruit and raise a large army, with the aim to push her brother off throne. As early as 48 BC, the Egyptian queen crossed the eastern border with a huge army from Egypt. At this point, the Roman Empire watched with concern, as the civil war in Egypt. In times of war, the land of the pharaohs will no longer be able to pay taxes, and the wheat deliveries will also fail. In order to finally put an end to the civil war in Egypt, Gaius Iulius Caesar went personally to Alexandria. Already at that time, when Julius Caesar was still a senator of Rome, a passionate love relationship develops between him and Cleopatra. This turned into a year-long romance. Cleopatra understood that without the help of the Roman Empire, she would conquer the throne of Egypt, will never get. According to historians, this could be one of the motivations of their acquaintance to be with Julius Caesar. At the same time, Julius Caesar collected money to be able to repay Cleopatra's money debts. After his stay in Egypt, Julius Caesar announced to the Egyptian council that Ptolemy XIII and Cleopatra will no longer share the throne. But Cleopatra should be the sole ruler of Egypt. But the High Council, was with the words of Caesar definitely did not agree, and announced this to Cleopatra's older sister and brother are the new rulers of Egypt. The civil war ensued, with no result in peace. Julius Caesar supported Cleopatra in this war. After a few battles, Caesar and his legions defeated the army of Ptolemy XIII, and almost completely destroyed. In conclusion, Ptolemy XIII was by one of Cleopatra absent messenger murdered. Now Cleopatra was the sole female pharaoh over all of Egypt and Syria. In 47 BC, the son of Cleopatra, Ptolemy Caesarion was born. He was the child of Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. This event was at this point a reason for Caesar to consider to take Cleopatra to Rome. The return of Caesar to Rome, with a potential successor, did the rest senators in Rome greatly unsettled and shaken. In general, the Roman Senate was very opposed to this alliance. That Gaius Caesar declared himself dictator of Rome, and already had a successor, which could continue the dictatorship in Rome, were the reasons why Caesar, in March of the year 44 BC, was murdered in the Roman Senate. After this event in 44 BC, Cleopatra and her son left Rome in a panic and fled back to Egypt. Cleopatra reigned there with her son as sole rulers in Egypt. In Rome, power was divided between Pompey, Mark Antony, Octavian Augustus, and Lepidus. As one of his first official acts, Mark Antony entered into an alliance with Cleopatra. He then wanted to demand tribute from Egypt, and traveled to Egypt to meet Cleopatra. Also in this acquaintance, a romance arose between Mark Antony and Cleopatra. At this point, Mark Antony was in a valid marriage under Roman law. Antony dissolved this marriage, and married Cleopatra in 41 BC. But Antony had to go back to Rome, to make peace with the grandnephews, and according to the close testament, valid heirs of Gaius Julius. After Pompey and Lepidus were eliminated, tensions arose between Augustus and Mark Antony, who were the two rulers of Rome. As part of keeping the peace between the two, Antonius had to enter into a political marriage with the sister of Augustus, Octavia, and forget Cleopatra forever. Over the next 3 years, Mark Antonius was still convinced that he would never to be able to agree with Augustus, and did not marry Octavia. Following this, Antony returned to Egypt. In Alexandria, a great reception triumph was held in honor of Mark Antony. He then sent a message to Rome, and announced the son Caesarion Caesar's successor, and sole ruler of Rome, whether according to the will of Julius Caesar and Roman law, Augustus was the rightful successor. The Roman Senate, Augustus and all other politicians, saw in the alliance of Mark Antony and Cleopatra a threat for the Roman Empire. Things went so far, that in 31 BC, Augustus finally decided to close Egypt a vassal state of Rome, and declares war on Cleopatra. In 30 BC, the legions of Octavian Augustus landed in Alexandria. In order not to get into an honorless captivity, Cleopatra and Mark Antony commit suicide by being bitten by a poisonous snake. I hope you liked the video. If so, please leave a subscription and a thumbs up there. See you soon, your channel History Best.